And it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, my name is Ahmed Dents. Welcome to We Are Listening back for 2021. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ahmed Dents, Artistic and Development Associate here at San Diego Repertory Theater, and my co-host, as always, in the house, La Jolla Playhouse's own Artistic Programs Manager and Local Casting Director, Jacole Kitchen. Jacole, how you doing?
Good. Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Ahmed.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody joining us. Thank you for being with us. If this is your first time being with us, a couple of things. Please make sure that you have your camera off. Make sure you have your camera off and your microphone muted. Right now, you should only be seeing me and Jacole, and we'll bring our guests on in just a few moments. Just want to make a couple of announcements. Again, make sure you have your camera off. Make sure that you have your microphone muted. Couple of quick announcements I wanted to bring to you. San Diego rep-wise, as far as performances, if you head on over to sdrep.org right now on sale, we have Christina Wong for Public Office. Very funny one-woman show that will be streaming on January 22nd, and then coming up on February 7th, we have Before Fiddler, Hershey Felder, Before Fiddler live from Florence. You can get tickets to those shows and performances at sdrep.org. Also want to remind you that the Breath Project, who we partnered up with just this past summer, the months are going by, just this past summer, they did a very spectacular festival, and they are having a online discussion coming up on January 23rd. It's a Saturday, January 23rd, 11 a.m. The Breath Project invites all BIPOC theater artists to a conversation, part one. It is a town hall discussion about dismantling racism and building equity in American theater. It is hosted by the Breath Project founder, Jamal Chaston. It'll be moderated by myself. You can head on over to the Breath Project Facebook page for more information, or you can head on over to sdrep.org, our events page, also our Facebook page, and it is also on Eventbrite, so you can sign up for that. And I also want to remind you that coming up in 2 weeks, we will have Dia and Osborne Hurston joining us here on We Are Listening on February 5th, a talk that a lot of you have been asking for. On February 5th, we will be welcoming Sam Woodhouse, Artistic Director here at San Diego Repertory Theater, Barry Edelstein, Artistic Director at the Old Globe, and Christopher Ashley, Artistic Director at La Jolla Playhouse. They will be joining me and Jacole on February 5th to discuss all of our theater's action plans going forward, and all three of these gentlemen's ideas and thoughts on race, equity, and inclusion. And then on February 18th, we will welcome Dahan Blevins, founder of Urban Warriors, and the Kumbah Fest, and we'll be giving a preview of Kumbah Festival that will be streaming at San Diego Repertory Theater coming up at the end of February. Jacole, what you got for the folks?
Digital Wow continues at La Jolla Playhouse. We have a couple of really exciting offerings coming up. One is the continuation of part one of Taxilandia, which is a virtual salon about gentrification and really deep, engaging conversations about the gentrification that's happening here in San Diego, as well as all over the country. Coming up are conversations with Khalil Blue and a phenomenal young woman that you're going to talk to this evening, Miss Joy Yvonne Jones. So we'll hear a little bit from Joy tonight, but then you get to hear more about her in Taxilandia Salon coming up, I believe, on January 14th, but we'll talk more about that. Also, coming up, Digital Wow 1000 Ways. It is a connection between strangers that starts with a phone call. More information about these two projects and all of our other Digital Wow offerings, LaJollaPlayhouse.org.
Thank you very much, Jacole. Everybody, again, please make sure you have your cameras off. Make sure you have your microphones muted. And again, you can get the schedule of all of our upcoming guests and talks at sdrep.org/listening. Also, a couple more things. You can catch all of the videos. All of these vid talks have been captured on video. You can catch them at San Diego Repertory Theater's YouTube page and La Jolla Playhouse's YouTube page. They've also been converted into podcast form. So you can listen to all of the episodes of We Are Listening at San Diego Repertory Theater's SoundCloud page, or you can search San Diego Rep on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And that is enough announcements. Let's go ahead and get to our guests. Tonight is an episode I've really been looking to because we're really talking about the community. We're really talking about a BIPOC community, safe spaces, what we're doing to all of us to further our love for this industry and how we're represented and how we relate to each other and how we relate to organizations. And so I want to bring just at once, I want everybody to come on camera, and we're going to go ahead and introduce all of our guests tonight. Go ahead, Jocelyn, Zack, Joy, Rich, come on in. Everybody, I'm going to go on my screen. I'm going to go clockwise. That's the best way I can do it. So I want everyone to please welcome Zack King, Joy Jones, and Rich Soublet. They are all members of San Diego Black Artists Collective. And also please welcome Jocelyn Prince. She is a principal at ALJP Consulting, as well as the founder of the Facebook page Theater Folks of Color. Everybody, welcome to We Are Listening.
Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you all here. Thank you so much for taking part in this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
for sure. As we were talking about a little bit before we went live, a lot of our conversations, as this one will too, because that's, it is what it is. We've been typically talking about what the organization's responsibilities are as far as we're moving forward now, and trying to provide the right type of representation and trying to make sure that, these organizations are showing us in the right light on stage, not just on the right light on stage, that we're getting paid correctly, we're getting respected correctly, we're getting the opportunities as far as not just being on stage, but, writing and, directing and, costuming, every aspect of that, and even in the administrative space. And so what I like about this is that here we have a collection of people who are walking the walk. They're walking the walk, and they're trying to put in work to just make these things right, and to make sure we're represented correctly, and to make sure we have the strength in ourselves to go forward. Really quickly, I'm going to ask Jocelyn. I'm going to start with you, Jocelyn. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and ALJP Consulting, and just what it's about and what the aim is there.
Yeah, sure. So I've worked in a lot of different areas in the theater. I've worked as a dramaturg. I've worked in administration, literary offices. I also have an ancillary career in politics. So I've worked on 3 presidential campaigns to date. Most recently for Senator Kamala Harris in Iowa. ALJP Consulting was something that myself and my partner started back in the summer of 2019. We started it because we really wanted to make some tangible change in the industry. And we wanted to make changes in terms of representation, but also in the ways in which theaters are recruiting and hiring for positions, particularly senior staff and executive level positions. There is a ton of racism that goes on in the hiring process in nonprofit organizations. The vast majority of hiring firms that organizations use are white firms. They're all white people, founded by white people, who are also recruiting white people. And they struggle to give these organizations a diverse slate of candidates to choose from for these positions. And so, we because of the network that we had, and because of the experience that we had working in nonprofit organizations and going through our own interviews and hiring processes, we just had a lot of ideas on how to make it more equitable, how to make it more inclusive, and how to, we wanted to just try to give people opportunities to be seen, even if they don't have the sort of right connections. A lot of these jobs are all about who you know, and where you went to school. And there are lots of very talented BIPOC people all over the country who can run these organizations. They're just not necessarily in the right club. So we're trying to make the hiring process more accessible to everyone at all different levels of the industry. So we have 4 different services that we offer. We do search services from entry-level positions all the way up to executive-level positions. We also do career coaching for folks who are interested in making a career change or just want some help developing their career track. We also do strategic planning for people. We've facilitated a strategic planning process right now for Pivot Arts, a company in Chicago, which has been really great. We also do community building. So we think about ways in which theaters can build communities internally and also externally with their local communities. So we try to be kind of a full service firm, and we're brand new. Business has been going well so far. We're going to keep fighting that fight. It's a hard space to be in because the space is overwhelmingly white and male, but we feel like we're making some inroads there.
That's right. That's right. And I'm gonna let them decide who wants to talk first. I'm not gonna pick anybody. I'm gonna let them decide who wants to talk first about the San Diego Black Artists Collective. Joy, Rich, Zach, which one of y'all want to give everybody a little insight into what that's about, or kick it off anyway?
Go ahead, Joy.
I had a feeling you were going to do that. All right. So again, my name is Joy Yvonne Jones, and I am a part of the leadership committee of the San Diego Black Artists Collective. We are a resource for the accomplishment of local Black works. Now, what this is we are trying to connect the artists and everything to the money, to the set designs and all the things that we don't have, because we have the talent in the community and we no longer want to hear, oh, we can't find a Black scenic designer. We can't find a Black actor who can do backflips. Well, yes, you can. You just haven't asked. So we are that. And we were birthed out of an affinity space created by the Old Globe. And we looked around and we're like, wait a minute, all of this is here? Why haven't we done this before? Why haven't all of these beautiful, talented people been in one room before, done work together before? So we decided to solidify it and create our own thing and become bigger than what was originally planned. So, yeah.
I was so mad when I saw that picture that y'all first posted on Facebook. I was like, how are all of the Black artists in San Diego in one room and I'm not in that picture? I was so mad.
Wait, let me tell you, when I got the invitation, I said, everyone I knew, do you know about this? Do you know about this? We need to all show up.
Yep.
I mean, I was out of town and I couldn't be there. I knew about it. I couldn't be there. But when I saw the picture, I was real mad. That's all I'm saying. I was included. I just wasn't there. And I was real mad. No, like Ahmed said, we do want to definitely make sure that we're going to be talking about the community and us and the organizations, but we don't want to miss out on talking about the individuals. So like we said, usually we start with talking about the artists and where you came from. So we're going to do, we want to get to the meat of this. So I'm going to put y'all on a time clock. Let's do a 60-second elevator pitch of how you came up in this artistic community. Zach, I'm going to start with you. Give us your elevator pitch. Who are you? What's your history with theater? How'd you get here? Go.
Right on. Hey, what's going on, y'all? My name is Zack King. I'm born and raised in San Diego. I got involved in theater by way of dance. I always liked acting and appreciated it, but I never felt I could do it. I started dancing senior year of high school, ran the dance team, went to college. I was going to do some pre-med stuff, a whole bunch of stuff, but dance was calling me, so I switched my major. Took some time, but I found my way into SDSU's dance program, graduated, outstanding graduate 2018, minor in theater. So a whole lot of technical training in dance via institutions and whatnot, and a whole lot of online training and small studio training in acting. I've directed a bit. So I work both in video and in theater, all kinds of on-stage work. And I think one of the main reasons why I make art is because I think that we express things that we may not say out loud through art. And I think it's a wonderful medium to tell stories and make people appreciate and question where they come from and what's next for them.
I know that's right. Jocelyn, what about you? How'd you get here?
Yeah, I think probably in kindergarten when I was in my Christmas play at my elementary school, I was kind of hooked on theater from that point. Participated in theater in high school and in college. I ended up with a journalism degree, and after college, I was writing about theater, and then I just kind of fell into actually doing it professionally. So I was a freelance dramaturg for some years. I got my master's degree in performance studies from Northwestern University, and then worked on a bunch of different theaters. I worked at the Public Theater, William Mammoth Theater, Cleveland Playhouse, Yale Repertory Theater. And then, I've worked on political campaigns, as I mentioned before, as kind of a side ancillary career. And then most recently, founded ALJB Consulting. And, as a dramaturg, I'm very eager to get back into a proper rehearsal room. So the Zoom thing has been kind of challenging for me.
Yes. Yes. I'm learning to love a Zoom rehearsal, but it is not my favorite thing at all. Rich, how'd you get here?
Technical difficulty.
Exactly.
It's a long and winding road, but I can tell you with total honesty that I first fell in love with theater in a play that I was working on in high school. It was the very first play that I worked on in high school. I was a prop master on a play called Black Elk Speaks. It's about the Cherokee Trail of Tears. Mm-hmm. And really, that's where I learned the power that theater has to give you access to stories that you otherwise would never have heard. The writings that they took to put that play together, still to this day, I try and look back and find it every now and then, still floor me. And that really sort of lit the spark that is now the flame that is my love, my deep, deep love of theater. I'm primarily now a photographer, so I do like headshots for actors, and I do a lot of production photography as well. So I'm not on the stage anymore, but I've done plenty of acting. I've done plenty of sound design. I've built sets. I've worked in the box office. Wherever you can work in a theater, I've worked there. So it has equal room in my heart as all the other arts do as well.
And I want to make sure that we get a chance in this call to talk about the one of the photography series that you have going on about being Black. So I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about that. Joy, bring us home. How'd you get here?
Okay, so my great grandmother is a poet and was poet, and I would watch her get up in church every Sunday and say her poetry, and she's a very soft-spoken woman, and I would see this power just rise out of her, and I was like, ooh, I want to do that. And so she started to train me with my Black history speeches, and then I went to the High School for the Performing and Visual Arts in Houston, Texas, and then on to the University of Minnesota, earning a BFA in theater in the Guthrie BFA Actor Training Program. I married my wonderful husband who's in the Marine Corps. So we bounced from Houston to Japan to North Carolina, now to San Diego. And I've had to figure out a way to make my hustle work and continue my passion and my art everywhere that I've gone. And so that's how I'm here.
Excellent. Minnesota, is that the Gophers? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a Golden Gopher.
Okay. My little cousin plays football for them. He just got recruited this year. This is his freshman year. Yes, I am officially a Gopher fan. Yeah. All right. Okay, Minnesota. All right, Ahmed, kicking it back to you.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for telling us a little bit about yourselves. Let's go real quick into the groups. Let's go real quick into Theater Folks of Color and the San Diego Black Artists Collective. And I'll come back to you, Jocelyn. What was the impetus, or what was the reason that you felt you needed to start the Facebook page, or why you started the Facebook page, Theater Folks of Color? What was necessary for that?
Yeah, sure. So I have a history of working in predominantly white institutions, and oftentimes in these institutions, I've been the only person of color, or I've been one of a couple of people of color. And from my own experience, and just based on the experience of my friends who are working in these organizations, is that you can feel very, very isolated. You feel as though, you're going through things that, you don't have anybody to talk to about, because it's an experience that is specific to a BIPOC person and there are no BIPOC people around you. I also became very concerned about this idea, kind of what Joy was talking about, like this idea of we can't find a set designer. Just this sense of erasure that happens within these institutions, this idea that, well, there are no people of color that could be a development director. There are no people of color that could be a managing director. And BIPOC people are told this, oftentimes in the frame of like, you're the only one or you're the first. And that's not true at all. And I think that's actually really, really damaging to us as a community. So I got together with a bunch of Black women and we talked about creating a space just for people who are not white. So people of color who can interact with each other in whatever way that they would like. So whether that's trying to help someone else get a job or putting out a casting notice or trying to organize around a common concern, to engage in activism together, a place to share personal stories and get advice. I don't know that some people call it a safe space. I actually don't know that it's a safe space. It feels pretty unsafe to me. I think it's a brave space to be in. And I think it's a brave space to hold. There's a lot of pushback about theater folks of color. We get reported to Facebook. I've been called a racist for creating a space where white people are not allowed. And so it's really complicated, to hold that space. And I think one of the reasons that I don't really think about it as a safe space is because even within our own community, we have isms, right? We have heterosexism, we have sexism, we have xenophobia, we have transphobia, we have all of these things within our own communities. And so the only thing that the space is really safe from is the white gaze. Like I can make it safe that no white people will be in here. But beyond that, like I think that there's a lot that we need to work out in our community. But I think it's helpful and you're able to have more nuanced conversations, frankly, when you don't have white people in the mix. I think that if white people were in that group, it would honestly just fuck up the vibe. I find that, oftentimes white people in BIPOC spaces will want to interrupt conversations, will want to ask questions for clarification, will want to disagree with things that people are saying, and it takes the conversation to a different place and also starts to center white people. So I wanted to create a space where nuanced conversations can have among BIPOC people who have a similar experience. So that's kind of what we set out to do. It grew really big, really fast. I didn't expect it to get this big so quickly. So it takes a considerable amount of work to kind of facilitate it and moderate it every day. But I'm grateful to have a really great team of people who, are willing to help out with that. So I'm always encouraged when I hear that people feel like, it's helpful to them or they feel like it's a place where they can go to get the things that they need to be productive and to be happy and all of that. So, I'm grateful for everyone who participates in it, and I hope it keeps growing, and I hope people continue to find it useful.
I have moments. I mean, I was gonna say I'm an active participant. I don't know that I'm all that active, but I am definitely a participant in Theater Folks of Color, a member of the group, and it has been a saving grace for me in so many moments over the last 10 months, especially, just to be able to have a place to be able to go to just breathe. But I do appreciate what you said about it being a brave space, because there are definitely times where I've walked into that space and gone, oh, what? I'm just gonna sit and watch what's happening here, because we are not a monolith, and there are opinions that people have that get debated greatly. But I do appreciate, it's like you said, it's a place to create a discourse. I have seen more positive dialogue. I'm not going to say minds changing, but hearts opening, minds opening, in that space than I have in any other, row of comments on Facebook. So I feel like a place where we're able to go in and have discussions versus this rah, everybody's against. I mean, there's a couple of raw moments. We've had some raw moments, but for the most part, people are willing to come in and discuss and listen. And I've gone in with my mind changed a couple of times where I'm thinking I'm being cute or being funny about something, and somebody's like, no, that's not cute, that's not funny, that actually is hurtful to people. And I appreciate, so yeah, I appreciate you saying that it's not this safe space where kumbaya, Black people get to come in and, throw flowers on each other. It's definitely a space for us to be who we are and to, yeah, create discourse.
It's a good place of resource also. It's just a great place of resource and sharing information and sharing news, that matters to us, sharing theater news that matters to us, sharing, literary libraries or resources such as that. It's just a great space of resource as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really, it's important. I mean, I remember when I was first starting out in the theater, I didn't know anything about anything, and it was really hard to find resources. It was hard to find a mentor. It was hard for me to find, to get plugged into the industry. So I hope it's especially helpful for early career people as well.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the San Diego Black Artists Collective. Let's talk about that, Joy or Rich or Zach. Let's talk about what the the impact or the mission is, or what is it? We know what it is right now, but what is it meant to be or to become? And what are the resources we're going to share with that?
You could dovetail right off of what Jocelyn was talking about, and having a space where Jocelyn and Nicole both said the same thing, where Black people can feel safe to be their authentic selves and to ask for help and ask for the resources that they need to navigate what is traditionally a very, very white space. Mm-hmm. And especially for people who are new to the theater industry here in San Diego, you can be completely lost without having someone to guide you, without having a compass, without having a map. And we want to be that map for people of color. We want people to be able to come in and see that, we are theater artists who have worked around town. We have connection. Each of us, all of us who are part of the collective, have various connections to various theaters in this town. And we can help people find the things that they need and help the institutions that exist find these people, get them paid for their work, paid what they're worth, right? And to respect them as Black, artists, actors, designers, painters, photographers, musicians, whatever, what have you.
Yeah, just to maybe piggyback off of that, I think in terms of generally where we fall in relation to affinity spaces, we're intentionally building community, and I think in a system that so notoriously isolates us, as we could tell from that initial meeting, that breaking bread. Just the shock on everyone. I mean, I don't want to speak for people, but I was in the room during introductions, and it was just a big shock to know that we weren't alone. So that was the system working. And so part of the mission of the BAC in terms of supporting Black work, it means that we need to be connected and that we deserve to be connected, and it's part of who we are to be connected. So one of the missions of BAC is to intentionally build community, and thereby, all the things you were talking about, sharing resources and all that. But at the core, it's to disrupt systemic oppression by bringing us together.
One of the things about the future that I would love to see happen with the BAC is that we will be advocates for each other. If we are in a situation in a predominantly white institution and we don't feel like we can trust or speak out to the institution or the people or the directors or whoever, then someone can go to the BAC and we will back them up. And that's important, because I've often felt like in a situation, I can't say anything, I will lose my job and there's no one that'll stand behind me. Well, now the BAC will stand behind you.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. I have one of my, sorry, go ahead, Jocelyn, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I love that. I mean, I think divide and conquer is a real thing. And I think that, us being isolated within these institutions or being isolated on a show where you're one of two people of color, that is part of oppression. And that is, damaging to us on so many different levels. So I think creating community and being in fellowship with each other is an act of resistance against the system that we operate under.
Mm-hmm. And Ahmed had touched on this before we all came onto camera. But one of the things that I noticed immediately and loved immediately, the first BAC meeting that I sat in on, is that it's young people leading the charge. Like, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, these are young and hungry people who are really fucking tired of the system, how it's been, and are ready to disrupt it and need the older folks to stand out of the way for a second and start something new. Can you all talk? So I was excited, and there's times where I'm like, no, I'm cool. I'm just gonna step back. I'm gonna let I know I'm still in the middle there. I'm still in the middle somewhere. But I'm at that point. I'm like, you know what? Let me step back and let these folks lead, because I love what you said, Jocelyn, about when you come in. You don't know anything about anything when we first started, but we get jaded. We start, adding things to our toolbox, and we start going, no, I got this. I know everything. Let me just do it. But to go, no, my way might not be the way, and to have to just stand back. So would love for one of you to talk about that a little bit, just in the creation of the Black Artist Collective. I mean, was it the young people that, just talk about how this became a thing, because it definitely feels like it was y'all. And I mean y'all as far as y'all generation, as far as just that hunger, that need for change. Can you just kind of talk about how that came to be?
I mean, it was all of us.
Yeah.
Like we were, the whole Black theater community was called together, or the Black artist community was called together, and to help create a roadmap to figure out what should happen for the future of for theater in San Diego, what we would want to see change. Mm-hmm. And then in our creation of action items, one of the big things was our own thing. And what does that look like? Because we were connected to one of the biggest institutions in San Diego, but what does our own thing look like? Because even though they have all the resources we could ask for, we would still have no agency, or not as much agency as what we would like. Right. And we want to create our own stories. We want to have control over what is happening with our stories and how it's being produced. And so, that figuring out the building blocks of our own thing. And we're still at the very beginning of it. We still are just trying to get visibility. That's step one, is visibility. It's letting people know that we exist and we're ready to work and qualified to work.
Yeah, I think I would add on to that I think it has been, what Joy said in the beginning, it was everybody. I think it's been multi-tiered from the get-go. During the introductions of the first sort of breaking bread that we had, it was very clear that there were young people in the room who were looking for mentorship, and there were veterans in the room looking to give mentorship. So along with that, I think, the elders in the room made it clear of they made a lot of things clear, which is just what I love about that type of experience and wisdom, is they could draw boundaries immediately, right? Of look, I spent 30, 40 years doing this. I know which lane I'm in now, right? And also don't forget about us, because there's ageism, right? So we have dope playwrights, but because of their, the work they put in, now they're not seen as profitable or commercial or whatever. And so I think one of the things that supported the BAC from the get-go was the strong expectations the elders set of this is what I can give, this is what I can't, and I also want to be advocated for. And so then because in the beginning it was really about working on a lot of stuff with the Old Globe, and then we sort of wrapped that up. We had a great time with that, and then moving on to what Joy was saying, our own thing, it was very clear. Some of the elders made it clear of we want to be here in support of you, but it is definitely, and it was sort of unanimous. They said, we felt like y'all are just taking this. So what we can do to support you and sort of handing off this baton, that's really where it came from. It was sort of, we sort of all came together in sort of one direction, even though it is multi-layered. Yeah.
And I appreciate. Sorry, were you going to say something, Rich? Were you jumping in?
I was just going to jump in and say there were voices of all ages in the room, and there still are even now. And the reason that it has worked so well, from impetus to where we are now, obviously, like Joy said, we're still in the infancy, is that people respect each other regardless of how old you are in that room when we speak, because everyone has their own different, varied and nuanced experience. And whether you've been at it in San Diego for 30 years or whether you've been at it in San Diego for 2 years, you have a space to talk and be heard and be respected.
No, I just wanted to say that I have spoken to one of the elders recently, and we were having a conversation about how much we appreciate like being able to say, I'm here if you support. I've had conversations individually with folks. I'm here. Tell me what you need. I'm here, but I'm not going to be the one. I'm tired. My plate is too full. I can't be the one leading the charge at this point right now. I can't be at every single meeting, but you tell me what you need and I will dig into resources. You call me up and say, I need an advocate. I am your advocate 100%, and so we appreciate those of us who are a little tired, appreciate you all going, we got this for now. We'll come to you when we need you, but we got this. So I'm just so impressed by every member of this group that I've interacted with.
It's so important in that like we can tell you what we need. Like asking for what we need is a huge thing, because like I feel like in the Black community we're often like, well, I can bear it. I'll just muscle through. I'll scrape up that wall. But instead of just asking for what we need, so like that is truly and greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I think when I came in the group, Jolla told me about the group and told me about everybody who was in the group. And I was one of those people for many years, like especially working, in what I've worked in ticketing and now in development. If for a Black man in San Diego who was working in ticketing, and that's what I did, and then became, a systems administrator, that was a lonely road. That was a lonely road, and for what I did in theater here in San Diego, that wasn't too many other brothers to talk to. I mean, literally, like seriously, at that point, like when Nikki left New Jersey, there was nobody, there was nobody else to really talk to about that. The thing that I loved about the group was, number one, when I got in the group and seeing how many young people, like you said, of all the ages that had joined this group. And then after a couple of meetings, seeing how things were starting to form like Voltron. People could put themselves into where their skill set were. You didn't have to come into the group and be like, okay, I'm here. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? If you just sat there and you talked and you listened and you participated, something was going to come up to where like, oh, that I can do. Oh, we need to work on a website? Raise my hand. I got you. I can start working on that with you. Oh, we need to know something about doing donations and stuff like that. I can slide in. Those things I can do. And for me, that's like, okay, that's where I'm at. That's my part in this. You know what I mean? And it's exactly what it is, a collective of everybody being able to come in and bring their different skill sets and bring their different sets of knowledge to make this thing whole. So that's what I really, really appreciate about the group. I just think it's a spectacular opportunity. And I think, as we talked a little bit before this, we needed, especially as Black folks in San Diego, we needed some type of central organization to where all the age groups could work together, because we needed those different age groups to come out of the, like with everything else in the world, the different parts of tribalism, even within our own community, that are keeping things locked up. Because we can blame everybody else all day long, and there's plenty of fault. But there's also fault in our stars where we're not letting go of old stuff and we're not looking to produce at a higher level that we need to produce at. If we say we want this, okay, well, it's time to deliver. You got to deliver like you would deliver like anybody else, And so I think that's what I appreciate about the group, is that there is that mix of age and geography in the city to where we can start letting go of some of these things that have been keeping us from doing these things here in San Diego specifically.
And it feels like, Jocelyn, it was a very similar, I'm hearing the folks talking about the collective, and it feels like that's also where your consulting group kind of came from as well. It feels like the creation of that consulting group is having that one place where you can have all of the different folks, where you know who all the Voltrons are, and it's like, oh, I've got that person to fit right in here. I've got this person to fit in here. Would you say, like, yeah, would you say that that's accurate, that the consulting group came from that need of having to have the resources in one place?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is about bringing people together around resources, around opportunities. You know, also, frankly, one of the reasons that we started it is because we wanted to have our own BIPOC organization. So the principals and the associates and the consultants that we all work with, all of us are BIPOC. And there's something that we found that is so empowering about that. I think we're able to lean into our creativity and our leadership in a way that we just can't in a predominantly white institution. We have a sense of agency. We can do things differently. You know, we don't have to get caught up in perfectionism and all of these things that, you know, I find oppressive in the way that PWIs work, and we can kind of create our own system and our own structure and what makes sense to us and what is things that are maybe Afrocentric as opposed to Eurocentric. So that's also, the space also is not only helpful for our clients, I think, but it's also helpful for us personally.
Can you, sorry, I know that this is going on a little bit of a tangent, but can you identify what some of those things are, some of these, because those of us who are, you know, company men, we're so ingrained in our PWIs that we may not identify exactly what some of those Eurocentric behaviors are versus Afrocentric versus, you know, giving space to do things different with even the perfectionism. Like, again, my proximity to white supremacy makes me go, well, what's wrong with being perfectionist? What's wrong with wanting things to be perfect, you know? But so can you talk about, like, identify what some of those things are for you that you have felt a difference having been removed from your space?
Yeah, I mean, perfectionism is a really big one. You know, I think that we tend to give each other grace in ways that PWIs don't do. We don't freak out about a typo. You know, we don't have some sort of disciplinary action process that someone has to miss a couple meetings. You know, we're just more chill. We're more relaxed. We operate on CP time. You know, we just function differently. I think another thing that goes on in PWIs is this sense of urgency all the time. Like, everything is an emergency. Everything has to happen right now. And we really make a deliberate effort to take our time with things. We try not to focus so much on getting things done the fastest. It's not about how fast we can get something done. It's the process itself and the time that we're taking to talk about things and discuss things and collaborate. So I think, you know, we actually use the DNA Works. Are you all familiar with the list of attributes of white supremacist culture? Okay, maybe I'll try to put that in the chat. But there's a list that, if you're familiar with Carmen Morgan, she teaches with Art Equity. She talks a lot about this, but there's sense of urgency, worship of the written word, perfectionism, fear of conflict, I am the only one, power hoarding, you know, all of these things that are part of white supremacist culture, I find show up really big in all predominantly white institutions. So on that list, there are also a list of antidotes to that, of, you know, the things that you do can kind of flip the script. But I highly recommend that sheet. I'm going to find it and put it in the chat.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we have we have been dealing with those points here, and we got bogged down. Like, I think it was process versus product. I think we got bogged down just in that phrase for like 2.5 weeks, just because, you know, this work of understanding this, they don't understand what that is or how that fits in or what are the circumstances. And so it kind of got taken personal by some people, you know, not understanding what these tenets are and how they can work. So like you mentioning that is like so important for, you know, these organizations to understand these things, and trying to get them to understand also, like, look, don't take it personal at first. This is something you need to examine. This is, you know, this is something that needs to be examined. You know, you need to look at this. If you're serious about doing this work you say you're serious about doing, it's something that has to be, you know, examined and looked at. So I appreciate you bringing those points up. It's very important.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, it really isn't about taking it personally, because I, even as a BIPOC person, can participate in white supremacist culture. Like, I can also fall into that as well. It's bigger than any one person. It's a system that is in place, and we, all of us, have to work on dismantling that system. So once you can take it out of the personal and put it more into the systemic, I think it ends up being more productive.
I find myself saying that even in my real life. I say to my sister all the time, that's your proximity to whiteness talking. That's why you're saying that. Ingrained in you now.
So as we you know, as we're moving forward now into 2021, you know, the thing that I've always said is you know, how long does this excitement last for organizations and for people? You know, is this for real? You know, is this for real? Are you going to get comfortable when things open back up and you're ready to go back to brunch, and then we forget all these Black Lives Matter statements and all these sweeping, you know, things that have come in 2020, and now that we stepped into this new year? And, you know, the thing I like to always remember is that this is still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of understanding to be had. We're all still doing this on Zoom. We haven't even gotten back into the office yet. Like, we haven't gotten back in the office to face this stuff for real, to face folks, you know, together again for real. And so, you know, as we're moving forward, I want to get kind of an idea from each one of you is, what do you personally think? And like I said, we're talking amongst ourselves here because we've talked about the organizations, and we'll always keep talking about the organizations. But I really wanted to focus on us as the artists and the workers, you know, moving forward, is how do we keep ourselves accountable? You know, how do we keep ourselves accountable individually and collectively? But then also, you know, what's the work to keep the organizations accountable on our end, you know, from what we're presenting from? Because now we're asking, you know, I think a lot of people need to understand this. And this is something I've come in some dealings I've had the last couple of weeks. Okay, well, now you're asking for this, but it's still not a one-way street. You know, you're asking for this, but what are you now willing to do to put your best foot forward? Because now the things you're asking for, you're going to be responsible for. The action that you're asking for, the space that you're asking for, the opportunity that you're asking for. Okay, well, you got to step on the field and play. Now they gave you the unit. Now you're going to get the uniform. Now they're going to let you on the field. You're going to go out there and catch the ball, or what? What you going to do? So, I mean, I'm just trying to get that kind of from you guys, because I know we're all in that kind of deterministic spirit. What are your thoughts on that as we, you know, move forward collectively and individually, as our responsibilities for each other, you know, to make sure we're putting our best foot forward and to keep our heads up as we move forward? Because some of this is going to wind back down, and some of these folks who think they're super woke right now don't realize that there's levels to this wokeness you want to have, and you know, you're still in the elementary stage. You know what I mean?
I'm just gonna steal your analogy and take it down court the other side. I'm all about assists. Like, that's my favorite stat line, right? When I want to take the ball down court and I want to help the other guy score, or I want to help the other woman score. That's what I want to do. I have so much juice. Yeah, I have so much energy. You have no idea, for making sure that people can come into a space and be comfortable being their real, authentic selves. And this is whether you're black, white, short, tall, you know, gay, straight, bi, transgender. I don't care. I don't want people to go into any institution, into any workplace, anywhere. And I'm in my space right now. I'm in the theater space, but if I can make it bigger, I will. I want people to be able to be themselves and not be afraid. I want them to shed their fear, because that's where true art lies, right? True art lies beyond the edge of fear. And if people are walking into these spaces afraid of who they are, afraid of being too black for this play or not black enough for that play, then they can't get to where they really need to be. So we need to be able to break that down. And until we get there, and by we, I mean everybody, I've got the juice to make sure that that I am in the room talking just like I am right now, right? Making people uncomfortable if I have to, so that it gets done.
Ooh, there's something in that uncomfortable part. There's something in that.
Yes.
Because everyone is too sensitive about being uncomfortable. Okay, we've done this old thing forever and ever. It's time to break those bones and get uncomfortable with the reality of people. And I also, I'm going to jump on the back of that energy bit. Like, I have so much energy to make this work happen because it's necessary. You know, in my few years that I've been a professional actress doing the things that I've done, I've tried to play the PWI game and be perfect, your perfect little Barbie princess, and it is not working because my skin is still black and I'm still terrifying. So, okay, I'm terrifying and you're uncomfortable with it. Cool, let's stay there. Another thing I want to jump on, nope, it's gone. Come back to me later.
I think so much of it is about unity. Like what I hope is that from this pandemic, one of the things that the pandemic has done is it's forced us to interact virtually. But one of the benefits of that is that you're able to interact with people anywhere. You know, so I'm having a panel discussion with you guys. You guys are thousands of miles away from me. You know, and that wouldn't happen if it was a real live panel discussion. Like I wouldn't necessarily go to California to do this. And so I'm hoping that we can keep that same energy even when we were able to meet in person again, because I think that the change that we're looking for has to be national change. It cannot be just a couple of theaters doing a few things. The way that we're going to change the system is all together across the country. And so I'm just hoping we can keep that same energy moving forward and stay connected to each other and keep working with each other. I don't know if you've seen the articles that Michael Bobbitt has been writing for American Theater Magazine. He's been writing some really phenomenal articles about you know, things that we need to do with institutions. He just wrote something about things we need to do to change the structure of boards of directors. Michael is someone that I want to work with because I'm talking to him this weekend just based on the things that he's written. How can we collaborate with Michael, you know, who is in Boston, but it doesn't matter. We're still trying to change the industry at a national level. So I'm just hoping we can keep that going.
I remembered. I was
Go.
going to say that the chaos that happened yesterday, it just bought us another 5 years because now we have visible evidence of white supremacy. You can't say we're crazy when we say, hey, that's white supremacy behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, here is the evidence. You've seen it. You cannot dismiss me right now.
You've seen the Confederate flag in the Capitol building.
You saw the noose. You saw the news.
You saw the
You've
news.
seen the proof that the police know how to de-escalate without shooting, without killing people. We've seen it. You know the tactics. Yes.
I don't want to hear you shouldn't have been there. They shouldn't have been there.
They shouldn't have motherfucking been there.
I
Yes.
don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump on the energy train because I definitely think that that is something that contributes to sort of the ebb and flow of like attendance in meetings like this. I remember last year when we were out in the street marching, these rooms had 90, 100, 150 people in them. And when it waned, I wasn't surprised because for me, I think one, life is always happening. So there are, you know, people fall into different categories, right? There's like, oh snap, you know, my life is happening. I can't get back on this call. There's, that was hot while I did it. I was all flamed up. And now I sort of can sit back because my livelihood does not rely on community. And then I think there are people that stay. And I think for me, in terms of energy, we have to manage our expectations. I think that one of the things that keeps me coming back, because I'm at the BAC twice a month, and I have another group, the Movement Catalyst of San Diego. We meet once a week. And so, you know, we're writing letters to Todd Gloria and yada, yada, yada. And I think that the commitment, like coming back and realizing that this is the thing that refuels us. Because yeah, it would be nice if I could FaceTime joy every time I'm about to go into an audition, but it's just not possible, right? We don't always have this instant access to our people. And so I think it is about making these pit stops and realizing every Wednesday I'm going to meet my people, and that's going to refuel. And I think that's where the boost in energy comes from. And then another thing is like acknowledgement and respect. For me, when I first got into acting, just because it felt so different from dancing in the beginning, I was never mad about not getting casted because I didn't think I was any good. And so what kept me going was like, oh, I would see the person who would get casted and I'll go up and shake their hand. I'll be like, yo, what's up, bro? You must be the shit because you got the role. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing when I see other people in the process, like obviously I'm not going to say what's up to Jacole when I go to an audition because that's inappropriate. But when I see her at the table, there's something in me that changes because I feel like at least if I don't get the role, at least I think I'm getting a fair shot. And so there's an acknowledgement. And I think it goes back to what Jocelyn was saying about that unity of just acknowledging other people, respecting other people for the hard work that they're putting in, and then connecting with our community as often as possible, because that is what refuels us, because it is a long and lonely road. And that's just a fact of the matter. So we got to educate our expectations, I think.
The thing that makes me hopeful, I know you didn't ask me the question, you asked the others, but the thing that makes me hopeful is exactly this, that the three things that we've been talking about here are the Black Artists Collective, Theater Folks of Color, also the consulting firm. All of you have said this got so much bigger than I expected it to be so quickly. When we've talked about all of those things, I had no idea that this was going to get so big so quick. But it's because there's a need for it, because people are hungry for it. And so to me, that gives me hope for longevity, that these spaces didn't exist before. I can't tell you the amount of times that Ahmed and I hear from guests after this show that just say, thank you. I can't believe that space existed. I never thought that a space like that would exist where I can come on and speak my truth to anybody, not care. I was going to say to anybody who will hear it, but not caring who's going to hear it. A space has been provided to speak the truth. And so I think we're so hungry for those things that I can't see it dying away anytime soon. Just the things that are now being created, because the Black Artists Collective, y'all aren't going away. You're not going to stop being advocates for the Black artists in this community, even if, let's say, even if PWI start going back to their regular ass business as usual. You won't, and so you won't let us. And so there's an accountability that is now being ingrained, because we have documents like We See You White American Theater. The list of demands, it didn't come with consequences, but it came with accountability. It came with, we see you and we're going to keep watching. And so now, so it's not good. So that's what makes me hopeful, is the accountability isn't going to go away. These groups aren't going to go away. There's other spaces that are being created exactly like this, that are like, a good friend of mine is she's a commercial agent, but she's also starting to produce and is creating a branch of her agency that is all about cultural representation. You need a cultural consultant on your, okay, I see that you're hiring Black people. You don't have any Black people on your staff. Here, you need a consultant. I see this is about Mexicans. You don't have any Spanish speakers. You don't have any authenticity there. Let me offer you some authenticity in way of consulting. So even if business tries to go back as usual, we now have people to say, oh no, that's not okay anymore. No. And we have, like you said, Joy, if somebody is having a problem in a rehearsal at the Playhouse, at the Rep, or what the fuck ever, you have a group of people to call, and there are advocates from all of those theaters within that group. So no, I am hopeful that we can't go back to business as it was, because now things are being created to meet the needs to make sure that it doesn't go back. And yeah, I appreciate y'all's energy, because some of us are tired.
Yeah, I think, that speaks to, as we're talking about the Black Artists Collective, our projects coming up, and, we get to talking, and here I am, I'm in the room, you know what I mean? And there's that agency, and like you're saying, that energy to not let it go. You know, I always get reminded, like I said, when I came into this, I never really saw anyone who looked like me doing what I did in theater. I didn't know anyone who was working in ticketing. I didn't know anyone who was system administrating. And then, you know, it's been this year that I've had to learn completely a whole new thing with development. You know what I mean? But I always kind of feel like I live by that Jay-Z first. You know, I do this to show them how to move in a room full of vultures. Not to say everybody's vultures, but to say I do this to show my people how to move in this space, because this is a space we haven't been in. And I don't want the younger people to come up and for it to be strange for them to move in that space. I want them to feel like, oh no, I'm more than qualified to move into that space. In fact, if you let me in that space, I'm gonna make that space better for you. You know, and so I think it's just like you're saying, bringing that energy and us staying. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have logged off and thinking they're going to go back to normal. But I hope a lot of people were paying attention yesterday only for the fact to realize nothing's going back to normal. Nothing's going back to normal. Yeah, 2020 is gone. Strap up. 2021 is about to be wild too. The calendar didn't flip and everything just changed. It's about to be wild too. So I hope, you know, for us who are still working in that energy, to bring it to let people know, like, nah, we're not going anywhere. This is not going anywhere. And now we're here. We're not going anywhere. I think one of the things that really got me this year, two things that really got me, was watching Lovecraft Country, because that, I don't know if people really understood. I think people are going to look back at Lovecraft Country and be like, oh, that's what happens when you let Black people tell their story. That's what happens when you let them do that. That's what happens. You come up with a masterpiece like that. You know what I mean? And there's a hunger for all that, you know, and we're going to be the ones that have to keep carrying that hunger forward. And now these organizations, they know, okay, well, we just can't put anything just Black on stage anymore.
And also with that, you can't just put us. We appreciate Juneteenth and Black History Month, but there are other days on the calendar. Black culture and Black people are so weaved into everything, in arts, in administration, and everywhere else. We are everywhere, and putting us in those 2 months and those special projects are not enough. It's not enough anymore. We are here and we want our proper recognition.
You read my mind, because I'm going to say, we don't exist just twice a year. We live here all year long.
All year long. We're talented all year long.
All year long. We're your neighbors. We're in the Sprouts, you know, looking at onions next to you. We buy the same craft beer you drink, and not just in February.
Right.
You know?
So you look like you wanted to jump in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're also not just here for your grant funded project. You know, we don't just want to be coming to your organization to do some program and then the grant's over, so, you know, bye now. You know, I think that like sustainability is also really important.
Also, if you're getting money based off our stories, you better put it back in our stories.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the most important things about community, especially with this attitude of like, we're not going anywhere, we're continuing to build energy. I think one of the greatest things community allows is for some of us to rest, right? Of like, there is so much, I think Joy was saying it earlier, so much. I mean, just being the son of a single Black mother, the weight of the world, you know what I'm saying? Like all day. I don't even know if she's put it down yet. And so for me, when you have someone that you can put your hand on their shoulder, or they can pick you up, or they can let you rest for a little bit, and when you ready, you can come back to the forefront. I think that is so powerful. And I think that one of the ways that white supremacy gets me, is that you know, I'm so caught up in my worth is directly connected to what I produce. And I think being around people who care about who I am strictly because of who I am, I think builds another layer of foundation that makes the weight a little less to bear. So, yeah.
And I think that goes along with like I tell people, like, this, you know, the struggle that we're talking about goes in hand with all the other struggles. It goes in hand with, pay equity. Like I was just reading an article the other day about pay equity in theater. And how, a lot of people don't know, like theater performing arts is one of the worst industries when it comes to pay equity and to recognizing, the hard work, that goes into putting this stuff together. And, as we've been talking about this, because it just is what it is, there have been so many people with privilege who've been at the head of the table of theater that it gets left behind the workers, what they have to do in order to make all that work go up. You don't have to worry about those bills, and maybe you don't have to worry about those kids, and maybe you don't have to worry about the sick mom or the sick aunt, and get all them damn reports done and get that campaign out and get this going and do this and blah, 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 because it's just not in your world. You're not worried about it. It's not in your view. All that's in your view is, like you were saying earlier, Jocelyn, is about how that lack of planning and lack of understanding your staff and culturally not understanding who's in the building with you, that leads you to plan falsely. And now everything becomes an emergency because you didn't know the work that it was going to take. Not just the work, you didn't know the work it was going to take for your staff, for your people, for the people that you are supposedly investing in. You have no idea what it's going to take for that work to really translate to where you want it. So you're making deadlines that make no sense according to what you want. You know what I'm saying? And you're wearing your workers out. You're wearing them out. And not only are you wearing them out, you're beating their morale down. Because if they try to talk to you about it and you flip it, well, then they have no one to talk to. They have no agency.
And I don't know, all of this kind of leads me to, I want to take it back to what Rich is saying, because to one of the things that one of the projects Rich is working on, because like you said, we're not just Black in February and that second week in June. I saw a great T-shirt. It said, "I'm Black every month, but in February I'm blackity black black black." So, but I think I might buy it. But
oh my Lord,
what's that?
I said I've heard it called Black Employment Month.
Yes. Yeah.
I definitely have friends that say they make the most money in February.
I'm not gonna lie. I had a friend who sent me $50 for reparations last June, just because she did. I accepted it. I accepted that money. But I want to take that to, what does it mean to be Black? And Rich, that is a question that you ask of your subjects before you take their pictures. Can you? I want to talk just briefly, because I know we're very, very short on time, and thank you all for being with us and being part of this conversation. But I want to talk to you. I want to ask one. What made you want to ask that question of your subjects, and what surprised you about the answers?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because it's a perfect loop back around to what Joy first talked about that very first meeting at the Breaking Bread that the Old Globe facilitated for the Black artists here in San Diego. They asked us a question, and I've had to answer this so many times that I'm not 100% certain that my answer is exactly word for word what they asked, but I'm pretty sure it's close. So I may be paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, if you had the ear of the world, what would you want to tell them about Black people? And what would you want to tell them about Black people here in the present, here in the past, and in the future? And I was sitting in the middle of the room, and probably 20 or so people spoke before me, and everybody had an answer that was a little bit different. Everybody had a different answer. All Black people, men, women, gay, straight, all different answers. And that was beautiful to me, right? Because everybody has this shared experience. We all have this thing in common, but each of us have led a life that is so varied and so nuanced that gives us all this very different perspective on what it is for us to be Black. And from there, I said, well, I want to get as many people as I can into a room. I want to ask them that question, what being Black has been like for them. And that boils down to the experience, the perspective that they have, the life that they're leading currently now, how, some people talk about their childhood. And it's what surprised me the most about the answers that I've received is every single person that has come in and sat down and done this with me has said at least one or two things that I have directly experienced myself. And that has ranged from, being picked first or last for different sports because you're Black, or people making fun of you because you're into video games, or like just everything. Everybody's had something that I've had direct experience with too. And if you take out that one thing and say this is Rich or this is Joy, because Joy came in and she was wonderful, she was amazing, she brought her child.
Oh, those shots were
so
beautiful.
Amazing. If you take the one thing that we have in common and this is all that you saw of either of us, you might think that we're the same. But there's all this other stuff too, right? That lends itself to our experience as Black people. So to say that there's an outside interpretation of who and what Black people are, and I feel like that view is just so narrow, and I want to widen it. So that's where the project was born. That's why I'm still doing it.
I love it. I love it. I get so excited anytime I see you post that series online. It's beautiful. Enjoy. Oh, you and that baby. You and that baby. Whew. Sorry, Ahmed, you were about to say something.
Yeah, Ahmed, please.
No, I thought Rich's screen had froze for a minute. So I was just mentioning that. Well, look, guys, it's we're coming up on 6:45, and Jocelyn out there in Chicago.
Yeah,
it's getting late.
It's late.
But well, look, I want to thank
past drinking time. Time zone.
But look, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I think no matter how these spaces come about, you know what I mean, whether it's Jocelyn making theater folks of color, the San Diego Black Artist Collective, even this right here that was the brainchild of Sam Woodhouse. Him not even knowing exactly what it would be, but just having the presence of mind to know, like, hey, I don't know what's going to be said. I don't know the stories. I know the space needs to be there. And you know what? I'll step out and create that space, and this space comes to that from Sam having the open mind to do that, but also letting me tell him like, okay, but we're not going to regulate who comes on or what they say. Are you really ready to do that? And the answer was yeah. So for me, it doesn't matter who creates these spaces at the moment, as long as we jump in them. As long as we jump in them and we share them and we talk and we take the experiences and we move them forward, and hopefully there's people who are watching this right now who are hearing this, and because there's still, even through all that we've been through, there's still people right now who are still sitting on the sidelines, who are still kind of like, do I step out and let my voice be known? Do I, we this past year, like when me and Jacole talked about, we did this, we knew when we started this, well, in order for this to keep going, we're going to have to grab everybody that don't give a damn first.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get everybody who don't give a damn, who talks their shit when they talk the same shit at work that they do when they out at home. Like we knew we were going to have to grab those people first, because we knew these were the conversations that were being had. And we knew that we would be the bold ones to come out and be like, look, we've already risked talking this shit at work, so we'll come out and talk it online too. But it takes all of us. It takes all of us working independently. It takes me working at the Rep to talk to this person who's trying to start their own theater company, to talk to this person who's doing their own photography behind theater, who's doing this, who's working on websites. This is what it takes for us to collectively see amongst ourselves what we have and what we are in this industry, and then be able to take that light and shine it outwards and let everybody know, like, hey, see, this is what you've been slipping on. And now my goal, my hope that I know that all of us are doing is we're talking to people. It's like, hey, now's the time to take a chance on doing all these shows you weren't doing. Now's the time to take a chance on showing Black folks like they've been telling. Now's the time. When else are you gonna do it? Don't tell me about shows and ain't making money, because we're all online now taking chances. So let's, you know what I mean? With that being said, Jocelyn, Joy, Rich, Zach, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully, if you get the message from me or Jacole to come back, please come back and talk to us again.
Thank you for having us.
Everybody, I put the link. I thought I put the link.
You did.
I put the link for LJP Consulting in the chat window. Please click on it, save that now so you can check out Jocelyn's company, and be on the lookout for San Diego Black Artist Collective website. It's coming soon. be on the lookout, and it's going to be another resource for all of us to get together, and that'll be a place where you won't have any excuse to say you couldn't find a Black whoever, whatever.
Yes, sir.
I put in the chat, it's actually not DNA Works, it's Showing Up for Racial Justice, the white supremacy culture characteristics. It is an excellent document, so please take a look at it.
I am about to pour a giant glass of wine and dive into that right now. Right now.
Yeah.
You'll want to drink after you read it. You will.
Yeah. That's why I figured, let me just preemptive. Let me just get in there. It'll be done by the time I finish. I'll be good.
And I want to invite everybody to come back and join us in 2 weeks. One of our guests is in the audience right now. Dia Hurston is in the audience. She's in the room watching us right now. Dia and Osborne will be our guests in 2 weeks on January 21st.
So everybody, Black theater royalty right there.
Exactly,
that's royalty.
Exactly. So we want y'all to come back and join us for those conversations. Head on over to sdrep.org/listening to register for that. Don't forget, coming up on February 4th, it'll be Sam Woodhouse, Barry Edelstein, and Christopher Ashley in the house to talk about what is going on with all 3 of the theater's action plans and all of these 3 giants in the industry's thoughts on race and equity moving forward, the moves they're making with their organizations. And then on February 18th, we'll be talking to Dahan Blevins with a preview of the 28th annual San Diego Kumbah Fest here at San Diego Repertory Theater. So everybody, please go register for those conversations. Again, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. I'll see y'all in the meeting on Monday. It's just Monday. Right? Monday?
No, they moved it. It's Wednesday. It's on the 13th, right?
It's on the 13th. I'm glad I said something.
Am I wrong? I lied. No, they're looking at me crazy. Don't listen to me. I put it on my calendar wrong.
Rich, when is the next BAC meeting?
Hang on. I don't keep this stuff right in my head. It's on the calendar.
We are scheduled for January 13th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. That is the 13th.
Thank you.
You were right.
There you go.
And we have a newsletter, so I sent it out.
Thank you very much.
If you
I
want
don't know
more
if I'm
information,
gonna
hit
be
us
there,
up.
but it's on my calendar.
You're invited.
But I was invited.
Yes.
Just don't go taking pictures.
Right. All right, y'all.
Everyone.
Love y'all.
Thank y'all. Have a good night. We'll talk to y'all soon. All right.
Thanks for listening.
Much love.